What is going on, Cultivate family? I hope you're all having a good week wherever it is that you're listening to this from. I should technically be on holiday at the time where you're listening to this, so I really, really hope that is a thing and that nothing has gone wrong or I haven't had some sort of freak accident where I haven't managed to go. So fingers crossed for me. If you've not seen much of me online, then it's probably good and I'm probably chilling right now and having a big sleep. So this week I am bringing you an episode on how often should we actually change up our workouts? And I'm talking about that from an exercise selection point of view. So how often should we change the format of our sessions and the types of movements that we're doing? So this is a nice follow-up to last week's episode on how you want to structure your workouts. So if you listened to last week and you've kind of roughly decided how you want to structure your workouts going forward, go back and listen to episode 52 if you haven't already. Then this week, we're talking about when you've decided that, how often should you change the exercises up inside that structure? So the first thing we want to think about is, again, what are you training for? Is it just for fun, long-term health, mental well-being? Is it something really specific? Is it just to gain as much strength and muscle as possible? A lot of us will have different training styles in the gym. Some people will prefer that kind of bodybuilder style of training, looking to actually increase the size of muscle. And then some people will lean more into just wanting to feel strong and empowered. And then other folks just want to get in there, lift some weights, feel nice, and leave. So we all kind of will have different purposes and goals. Some of us might want to support sports. I have a lot of rugby players, roller derby players, cricket players, football players amongst my team. And then I also have some folks that just want to take care of their long-term health, make sure their bone density is good, and make sure that they can move well. And the reason that all comes into play when we're thinking about how often you want to change up your workouts is because the more you change them up, the more variety that you'll have. But that might mean that you might not necessarily progress as quickly as you want to, which isn't an issue unless you have a competition or a deadline or something really specific that you want to do. Then the next thing we want to think about is, how do you and your body feel about your current workouts? So from a mental and from a physical perspective, do you feel like you find them really boring? Do you feel like your strength is plateauing in certain movements? Or do you feel like, yeah, I'm in the pocket, I'm on a vibe with it, I love it, I just want to crack on every week, and I'm happy with how everything's going? So that's the second thing that we want to ask ourselves. And there's probably a lot of coaches that would say, oh, well, you shouldn't enjoy your workouts, you just need to do them and get on with it. But I actually think that working out should be enjoyable. And if you're not enjoying the process of building strength in the gym, then maybe you've just not found something that you really enjoy yet. So I would very much like to help you find that. Now, when you think about your gym workouts, if you are a person who really likes variety and you find that you get bored quite easily with plans, the best advice here that I can give you is to change your workout program up every 4 to 6 weeks. Because 4 to 6 weeks is enough time to make some decent progress without chopping and changing too much, unless obviously you miss a lot of the sessions. So 4 to 6 weeks is a good rule of thumb for people that want variety, want to be stimulated with different movements, or get bored by repetition. The downside of that is that if you change your exercises every single 4 to 6 weeks for something completely different, it means that you only have a small window to sort of progress at a certain movement until you revisit it again. And that's not the end of the world, but it's maybe not the most efficient way, if that makes sense. Now, if you're a person that just wants to build the maximum amount of strength as efficiently as possible, then we want to keep a good selection of movements consistent over a long period of time. So the best way to normally do this is to nail your compound movements, your squats, your bench press, your deadlifts, your pull downs, your pull-ups, your push-ups, things like that. Nail your compound movements, progressively overload them using reps, weight, tempo, intensity, and rest times, and stick at it. And then if you do plateau after a while in a certain movement, you can ask yourself, am I actually implementing a plan to progressively overload each week? Or am I just going into the gym and trying to lift as heavy as possible? Because when you stick at a movement for a long period of time, you can find that you can usually find a way to increase the intensity or overload it week on week, even if it's just by 1 rep, a slightly slower tempo, or a tiny little bit more weight, or a tiny little bit less rest. There's always a way that we can progressively overload over time. So if you're looking for maximum efficiency and maximum possible strength, then you probably want to keep your exercise selection fairly similar, specifically with those compound movements that make up the foundation of lifting weights. Now, if you do find you are heavily plateauing on a movement that you've been chipping away at for months, there are techniques that you can use to break through those plateaus. One of them that I really love is cluster sets. So if, for example, you're doing a lat pull down and you're getting stuck doing any more than 8 reps at 45 kilograms, it might be that you add an extra set. So there's more set volume and more overall reps. It might be that you break them into 3-3-3 and do a cluster set. So you come out with 9 reps. So you're still actually progressing by 1, but you're having a little 10-second rest in between clusters. There's lots of different tools we can use here. So if you are plateauing at a movement that you've been doing for ages, before you change it, think about the different ways that you can overload it that you might have missed. As an example here, I have barbell bench pressed every single week since September 2023. So I've bench pressed every week for almost, well, it'll be a year. And every week I have made a tiny progression. And it's not always been very noticeable, but my bench is now almost double what it was back in September. And that has been done by mixing up tempos, mixing up rep schemes, rest times, putting pauses in, taking pauses away, using cluster sets. Myself and my coach have used every tool in the book over the last year to shake things up. And I've really enjoyed it, and I've not got bored of it once because I've just loved chasing the progression every week. I hit a 3-rep max personal best yesterday and fully just didn't expect to. And every time I felt like I've almost maxed it out, we changed the structure of how we show up for that movement in the session, and we get the little progression. And I thought that was a cool example. So if you really love doing your compound movements, but you feel like you are plateauing, there is always ways that you can overload it. So feel free to slide into my DMs if you want any more ideas for that stuff. If I hadn't bench pressed every week for a year, would I have still doubled that bench press? Probably not. I might have come close, but not quite, because I wouldn't have been doing it as often. And as it was a week lift for me, doing it every week was pretty essential to building it up. And as a result, all of my training got better. So things like push-ups, handstand strength, it complemented a lot of my skills. So it was worth keeping it in for. So repetition over a long period of time can see a lot of strength progression. So maximum strength efficiently as possible, stick with workout formats that you love and don't look to change it too often. And you might then think, well, how do I know when it could be time to change it up? Because I've been doing the same exercises for ages and I'm not sure if I need to. Can I carry on or should I change something? So questions to ask yourself here are, if you're not enjoying it, so you're not showing up at your best, you can't really be asked, then you might want to change it up. If you're not feeling very stimulated from the movements that you're doing, you're not enjoying the process of chasing those little gains each week, or you feel a bit meh about certain movements, you might almost look for excuses to skip them, like if the kit in the gym is busy or something like that, then that may be a sign that you do need to change something up. Now, the main thing that I want to get across here is that you never need to change everything all at once. You can actually just swap one movement out here and there. And this is actually my favorite approach with my own training and with a lot of my clients, because it means you don't show up to the gym with a whole new block of training every 4 to 6 weeks and then have to navigate all of those changes and all of those different movements all in one go. Changing a few bits up in here and there is a really nice approach because it's less overwhelming, and then you're only really needing the mental capacity to build 1 or 2 new things in at a time. I find a lot of my clients actually prefer this as well, because they don't always have loads of time amidst life and work. So they like to smash out their sessions really efficiently. And if I put loads of movement changes in their programs every 6 weeks, it means they have a couple of weeks where their sessions aren't as smoothly. Whereas if we just introduce one new movement here and there, then they get into their session, they see the new movement is there. They have the time to almost have a bit of a play around with it, but then they're not having to do that for every exercise. So don't think you need to change everything all at once. It might be that you change up a couple of movements every 4 to 6 weeks or, every month or so. And that might be progressing from one thing to another as well if you're working on really specific skills. If we look at the Superhuman program subscription that I do, in the beginner plan, workouts change every 4 weeks, which means it gives all of my beginners quite a lot of exposure to try different movement patterns. And although the workouts change every 4 weeks, there's still a couple of staples in there that will be familiar. And that approach I really enjoy for anyone new to lifting weights because it gives you lots of time to figure out what you enjoy and figure out what kind of movements that you like. And then for any folk that move on to the intermediate program, we change workouts every 6 weeks. So you have a longer time spent with the movements to progress them over a longer period of time, make more progress with them. So the way I do my set programs isn't quite the same as what I would do with my clients, but that's because they're not really specifically personalized. So I try and almost design all my superhuman plans with adaptions and flexibility and progression in mind. Now, a note with changing up your exercise selection for all my neurodivergent family. We can all work in different ways when it comes to this stuff. I've worked with a lot of folks with ADHD that absolutely hate doing the same thing week in, week out. So they prefer for their own approach to exercise to have different things thrown in. I've worked with some folks that absolutely love repetition and familiarity. I am one of those people as well. And there's no right answer here. A lot of people are creatures of habit and like to show up and do the same thing. And it makes them feel safe and it feels familiar. And that can also transfer over to feeling more comfortable and confident in the gym. But some people, to keep stimulated and to keep enjoying the process, need a bit more change. And it's the same when it comes to anyone that's neurodivergent as well. So to sum up, how often should you change up your workouts in terms of the exercises? Sticking with things for longer usually will result in much better strength progress, which is why doing like random Instagram workouts, classes, or TikTok workouts isn't as effective as following a progressive strength training plan. And now that doesn't mean that you can't do that. It doesn't mean that you can't do your classes or fun workouts that you see on social media. It's just worth being aware that it's not the most efficient way to build strength and muscle or improve specific skills. And if you really enjoy variety and trying new things, then there is definitely like a level of acceptance needed that you won't progress at everything as quick as you might want to. But if you're enjoying that and you're enjoying all the different things that you're doing, then that's totally valid. That's okay. Again, looking at my own training as an example, I'm a runner, I strength train, and I do a lot of skill work with the CrossFit style gymnastics, which means if I am consistently trying to get better at running, I'm trying to get stronger in the gym, and I'm trying to improve my CrossFit gymnastics, it means progress in each of those areas is slower, but I really enjoy that approach. It works for me. I love how my coach programs for me. And after a year of working with him, he knows exactly how I like to work, and I love his programming. And that's what I try to give to all my clients as well. So for me, being a little bit all over the place, but doing lots of that repetitively is my kind of flavor, but it definitely might not be somebody else's. And I think the bottom line here is just this is why having your own workout programming, your own workout plan done for you by someone is just so beneficial because then it's all tailored to you and what you want. Me being able to say to my coach, I want to work on Olympic lifting, CrossFit gymnastics, I want to be a runner, and I also want to really increase my strength. Like, I just tell him that, and then he programs all of that. And it's the same with my clients. They tell me what they like about their training. They tell me if they've got any specific goals. We maybe pick a few movements that we can chip away at that feel like a good benchmark for them. Or maybe it's a distance they want to run or swim or cycle. And we build it all from there. So if you're really struggling to decide when you should be changing up your workouts, how often you should be changing up certain exercise and you do want some help, got a couple of different options for you. So the low-cost Transmass program, Superhuman, that I mentioned earlier, it's $14.99 a month, and you have access to my intermediate and my beginner program on there. And that focuses more on building a really strong upper body and then hitting legs super efficiently. So even if you're not transmask, you can actually do that if it aligns with your training goals. You love the heavier focus on upper body. And then by the time I get back from holiday, I will actually have a couple of spaces to take on some one-to-one folk towards mid to the end of September for coaching. So if you want that more custom approach, you love the idea of just opening an app and knowing that the programming done is all in there for you, I would love to help you with that. So just fill in the form in the show notes, join my little waiting list, and then I'll be in touch as soon as I'm back and I have spaces free. So I hope this has given you some good concrete guidance with how often should you actually change up your exercises in your workouts. And as always, any questions, slide into my DMs. And if you're enjoying the podcast and you haven't already, please give it a follow, give it a little review on whatever platform you're on, because it helps me out so much. So have a lovely rest of your week, Cultivate family. Take it easy. That is me out. Bye.